Hey, it's Maximo and welcome to Maximo's Travels. Today we take arguably the best day trip from Tokyo. We take 3 trains and battle oppressive heat and humidity to go to Enoshima Island. We have great food, see spectacular sights, climb observation towers and go to sea caves, eat fantastic Italian food, and have a brilliant time. And stay to the end to see if it's one of us that needs the ambulance to make their way down off the mountain. It's day 4 in Tokyo and we're off for a full day trip to Enoshima Island. It's around about 58 kilometres and 1.5 hours each way from our hotel in Ginza. To get there we need to catch 3 trains, the Asakua Line, the Ueno-Tokyo Line and finally the Enoshima Line. It's important to note that you need to change stations and train lines at Fujisawa Station and take the 3 stops to the end of the line, which is Katase-Enoshima Station. It's quite a pretty train trip out to Enoshima and it was quite relaxing even though we had to change trains a couple of times.
The next station is Fujisawa JT8.
The cost of these train tickets was around about 1,200 yen, which is, I thought, quite reasonable. It's 1,200 yen each way. We could have gone the romance car, which is probably a nicer main trip out to most of the way to Enoshima, but that is reserved seating only, and some of the stations are just a little walk out of the way. So we decided to catch just the normal trains unreserved and managed to get a seat everywhere. Now once we stopped at Katase-Enoshima Station, it was a 1.5 kilometre walk in searing heat from the train station to the island itself. And the island itself is quite big, so we did a hell of a lot of walking this day, that's for sure. Now the island's quite large. It's around about 1.3 kilometres long and about 700 metres wide, but there's a fair bit of elevation and lots of stairs, and given the heat and humidity, it was quite grueling walking around on that day, that's for sure. On the way to the island, there's quite really nice views of the surrounding dock area, and also there's a quaint bridge across that doesn't give you an ounce of shade, so that's why some of the umbrellas were out amongst the locals. They had the right idea. So we made our way across to the island. It was around a 20-minute walk until we got to the island proper and the little town just beyond the bridge. The first thing we did when we got to the village was headed to the nearest vending machine and got ourselves a nice icy cold drink each. We then walked in the relatively cool of the shaded village streets and just had a look at some of the shops that was selling everything from takeaway food to handmade souvenirs to fridge magnets, you name it, there was a shop selling it. We slowly made our way along the village, past all the interesting food establishments, to the first shrine. We had a quick look around the shrine and then proceeded to the bottom escalator and purchased a combined escalator and sea candle ticket for 750 yen. The sea candle is a tall observation tower, which is the highest point on the island itself. You don't really need to purchase tickets to the escalator, but seeing it was so hot and humid and the escalators were in the shade and had a degree of air conditioning, we thought it'd be prudent to save our energy and ride the escalators up. There's 3 escalators and there's something to see at the top of each escalator station. It was certainly an interesting ride up to the top. There's plenty of signs to guide you to each of the elevator stations. And after too long, we were at the top of the first station. We were greeted with quite charming gardens and a number of different shrines. Took the opportunity to have a bit of a wander around here. After a bit of wandering around, we found ourselves in the Samuel Cocking Garden. An unfortunate name for such a spectacular and beautiful garden perched on the top of Enoshima Island. It probably wasn't the peak time to come to these gardens, probably springtime and perhaps autumn would be the time to go. But nevertheless, we had a really good look around the gardens and admired some of the natural foliage and some of the scenery. After a while, we decided to have a break and went to the Loncafe, situated in the grounds of the garden and overlooking the coast and the bridge to the island. What have you got there, Joe? French toast from Loncafe.
You can read it right.
It's good how people label things.
This is great.
Is it blueberry? Blueberry with ice cream. Thank you. And with some iced coffees with milk inside. Arigato. Trying to heat here. We had our coffees and feeling somewhat refreshed, we proceeded to the lookout, which is just adjacent to the cafe. The lookout offers stunning views of the coastline and also of the surrounding area and the land bridge between the island and the mainland. On a less hazy day, you are able to see Mount Fuji about 70 kilometres to the west of the island. Alas, it wasn't to be today. We walked for a few minutes through the gardens again and made our way to the Sea Candle. The Sea Candle is basically a fairly tall observation tower that is quite prominent, being at the top of the island and having magnificent views of the area. The Sea Candle is a lighthouse and observation tower that sits around 120 metres above sea level, and the tower itself is around about 60 metres high. It features 2 levels reached by a glass elevator. The lower level is enclosed and you need to go up a couple of flights of stairs to go to the outdoor area. On a nice day, it's definitely preferable to go to the higher area where you can get reflection-free videos and photos of the commanding seascapes, harbour and landscapes that you can see from the top of this tower. We finished up at the Sea Candle and then made our way to a restaurant for lunch, the Chianti Cafe, an Italian restaurant that sits on the cliff face of the island. This restaurant was recommended by a Japanese YouTuber, Ryan. The first thing we did was had an ice cold beer and savoured the air-conditioned cafe. Kampai, and my risottos are right too.
Feel it.
I know, it's hot. And what have you got there, Joe?
Pizza.
Pizza? And what's the sauce?
It is habanero.
Oh, so red habanero pepper sauce. It says hot.
Habanero, no hot.
You going to try some? Okay.
Not right now.
Okay. There's a pizza, Joe. Nice taste.
It's good.
Excellent. About the right size for lunch, isn't it?
What's your gorgonzola?
Gorgonzola.
Oh yeah.
And how's that spicy sauce?
I didn't put much on it.
Okay.
I didn't want to ruin it.
Right. It was really good to be in air-conditioned comfort. We enjoyed our meal. It was a really good service. We did down a couple of beers each and recuperated from the heat and all the walking somewhat before we pushed on. I went outside onto the deck and took some spectacular photos and videos of the view from the deck of the restaurant. It's really high on the cliff tops, quite spectacular really. We then made our way towards the sea cliffs on Enoshima Island. This was about a 20-minute walk from the cafe, past the shrines and the top of the village, to the rocky shore of the island. There were many stairs, so if you're mobility impaired, I don't think this trek would be suitable for you. We passed quite a few touristy shops and cafes and a number of vending machines where we could get some drinks, thank goodness. And we did have to dodge the occasional hawk that attempted to dive bomb us. We made our way to the promenade at the base of the cliffs, and at this point there was quite a long queue that was waiting to get tickets to the sea caves. At this point, Jo decided that she didn't want to wait in the baking heat, and we split up. I waited about half an hour to get the tickets and into the first cave, and Jo spent this time in the shade and just wandering around the rocks on the cliff. The tickets to this cave system was only 500 yen, or about $5 per person. These sea caves were quite short and certainly nowhere near as impressive as those that we saw in Italy or Slovenia, but nevertheless they were worthwhile visiting. We were given little candles on a stick that helped us navigate in the darkness, and had a good look around the cave system. I do believe that my camera took much better photos than my video on the GoPro did, and here's a look at some of the pictures that I took. At the end of the cave is a small shrine, so it was quite intriguing to see that there was a shrine at the far end of the first cave system. I emerged from the first cave, walked along an elevated promenade, and entered the second cave. The second cave was much shorter than the first, and at the end of the cave there was another shrine and some sort of sea monster. And if you clapped your hands, the sea monster would roar. It took me an hour to go through the caves, including about half an hour lining up to get tickets. I made my way to the surface and walked along the promenade, the elevated promenade along the rocky shore, and then tried to meet up with Jo. Incidentally, we were using Google location tracking, which is really handy, especially when you're split up in a foreign country, and every single place in Japan had a mobile phone signal, so it was a brilliant way to know where each other was at if we were separated at all. I successfully found Jo, and then we began the long and arduous trek up hundreds and hundreds of stairs to the top of the island. Incidentally, along the way, we saw a tourist collapse due to the oppressive heat and humidity. It did take us a while to get to the top of the island, and we had to stop many times. Here's a path to the top of the island. We did take a shortcut, and we turned left at a big tea house. If you've gone up to the steps above it, you've gone too far. The shortcut allows you to take a more sedentary and relaxed trip down to the main town. And as you'll see in a sec, the tourist that collapsed was taken off the island via ambulance. And the amazing thing about it was these rescue workers ran in front of the ambulance all the way down to the main town. In the oppressive heat, this is a spectacular achievement from these rescue workers. That was the second time that I've seen a tourist collapse on a steep staircase. The first time was in the Blue Mountains at Christmas, and now this time in Enoshima Island. Well, Jo and I did make it out alive and relatively well, and we proceeded down the main street of the main town on the island. And as you can see, by late afternoon, the place had got really packed. We proceeded to just wander through the stores, have a look at a few souvenirs. I think I got myself a fridge magnet, and basically just headed towards the train station for the train trip home. The walk over the bridge was just as hot and perilous as the trip over in the morning. And I did stop to take a few photos of the harbour side, and also stopped at a nearby beach that I won't even try and pronounce the name of, and just took a few photos. It certainly doesn't compare to the golden beaches that we have in Australia, but it was good to see some of the locals enjoying the end of summer in Tokyo. We made it back to the train and were thankful to be able to catch a train in air-conditioned comfort and head back to our hotel in Ginza. This took about an hour and a half or so. Once we got out at Ginza station, we discovered that the main street in Ginza was close to traffic, and it became a huge pedestrian walkway. This is quite interesting to see, and there was plenty of people about. And even though we were quite tired and a bit affected by the heat, it was really good just to walk and do a bit of people watching and just soak in the experience of Ginza on a weekend. So we made it back to the hotel for a well-earned rest and recovery. And a little bit later that evening, we went out again to Ginza and had yet another fantastic sushi meal. This time it was a restaurant called Sushi Tofuro. I do hope you've liked this video. If so, please do hit the like and subscribe buttons. Until our next Tokyo adventure, bye now.